Okay. Chapter 2.
Chapter 2. Good fiction's job is to comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. David Foster Wallace.
Have you ever had that perfect thought that gets you lost in the keyboard? When your words turn into pictures. That happens to me when I write that down. This is a podcast about becoming a writer, my favorite books, authors, and everything about the written word. This is Write That Down.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm the aspiring author.
And I'm your trusty producer, sidekick. Can you begin to describe, we're on location this week for this episode. Where are we?
We are in Harbor Springs, Michigan, and right now we are recording on our top deck. And it is amazing because we have an amazing view of the lake.
Little Traverse Bay.
And we can see the beach and all the green grass, and it's really beautiful.
It is a warm, sunny day. The water is calm. How would you write this scene if you were writing?
The water levels are really high. That's also another thing. But the water, I don't know what that does, but it makes the water as clear as glass.
Yes, so you can see to the bottom for sure.
You can, and all these rocks are pushed up onto the shore. It's just a very pretty scene.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Very.
I think that's right. Very descriptive to the water that you could see straight to the bottom is
right.
Crazy. So what have you been doing up here? Is this a writer's retreat?
A little bit. I mean, I have been writing just for the fun of it. And because I brought my computer, I thought, why not? But we've done some paddleboarding. We've swam. There's a neighborhood pool up here. We go to town. It's only a 2-mile walk into town. Mm-hmm. So we walk into town. There's an ice cream shop up there. It's a lot to do. You can't be bored here. So
when you say you write up here, how does being away from your normal environment inspire you?
I feel like, to be honest, it doesn't really. I am writing a new project that I will not be reading today, but in the next episode, I believe. But I basically took the setting here and I put it into the story because I felt that this setting was very fitting for what needed to happen in my story. And I feel like this setting is a very beautiful place, so I feel like it's perfect.
Your mom often refers to places here in northern Michigan as wonderful backdrops for books or stories, right?
Yeah.
Like when we were paddleboarding yesterday, she's like, that house.
That house is perfect.
For a book or whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
How long are you up here for?
We were up here for a week so far, and we have another week to go.
Gotcha.
A little less than a week, actually.
And then, so you were mentioning in town, you're hoping to secure a couple of key interviews that have...
I do. I have one of my favorite people in existence up here.
Really?
And she's one of the nicest people I've ever met. And she works at a bookstore.
Okay.
And we will be talking to bookstore a little bit. I don't know if it'll be this episode.
Your producer has donated a lot of his income to that bookstore over the years. Because this is an annual event for you, right? To come up here.
It's an amazing bookstore. It's a very small bookstore. And...
Independent?
Yes. It's a one-chain kind of thing. And... Sorry, there was a hornet. But...
It's like Michigan size. It looks like a Wolverine hornet or something.
Yeah. But so it's a very amazing bookstore. And we go there pretty much every single... I try to go there every single day, but that doesn't ever happen.
And then this year it's a little different because of
COVID.
Pandemic. Yeah.
Yeah. So they were allowing 3 at a time. So we just secured 2, because there's 5 in our family, we just secured 2 appointments. So 3 of us are going to go in, and then 2 of us are going to go in. And it's going to be so awesome. I'm so excited to see it.
Well, that sets the scene. What's on the agenda for the podcast this episode? Chapter 2.
Well, as you know, I just read the quote by David Foster Wallace. We're going to talk about that. This is going to be one of my favorite episodes that we have recorded yet. So we have our most embarrassing story, which got recommended, I don't know if that requested by one of my best friends. Okay. So she recommended that we did that, so we're going to do that. And I'm going to talk a little bit about future authors because we have an interview this week. Kallen Hanson, she's one of my good friends too. And so we interview her in a bit.
And she's a published author. She
is a published author, and that's really crazy that literally one of my friends who's my age, 12, published a book, and that's exactly what I want to do. And I feel like that's amazing.
Gotcha. So you mentioned the most embarrassing moment, like is something that you have written, or okay. So set the scene. So one of my friends, we're on FaceTime, and she said, "I have a request and a suggestion." I said, "Give me both." She said the request that she came on,
And hopefully that'll happen one day.
We can make it happen.
Yeah, she's a very amazing person. She's super bubbly and energetic. And
is she a writer?
No, she's just one of my good friends.
Gotcha.
She said, and I want you to read your most embarrassing story. So that got me thinking. The wheels were turning in my head. I went onto my Google Docs because I write everything on the computer. Mm-hmm. And I was scrolling down and I could only find this one poem. I think most of the embarrassing things I write get deleted. And I know that you're not supposed to do that, and I do not recommend that you do that, because if you ever do start a podcast and you want to read your most embarrassing story, it's there. But gotcha. I think I deleted one that I wanted to read. But
okay, so you're going to read this.
Yes, I am going to read it. It's a poem that I wrote a little over a year ago.
Okay, and what can you set it up? What's the poem about?
So it's called Future, and that's basically exactly what it is.
Okay.
And, I mean, I just don't like it. I just don't.
So what makes it so embarrassing to you?
I don't know. It feels like a 3-year-old could have written it, because I feel like when you think of poem, you think of rhyming words and a distinct topic.
Yes.
Everything has to make sense. It's like all that. But as I've grown, flourished as a writer.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
As I flourished as a writer, I have come to realize that poems don't have to rhyme. They don't actually have to make sense whatsoever. But they can do those things. And this just seems like a poem that you could write in 1st grade. But I wrote it in 5th.
Okay. You're going to read a little bit or all of it? How long is it?
It's 5 stanzas.
Okay, let's hear it.
When I was young, I would dream of big things, climbing up clouds and flying with wings. But now my dreams are different, about hope and light. All I want is for the future to be bright. Now I dream bigger, but more true, because of all my dreams, now I have to think through. No more being a princess, an athlete now, an author as well, a pencil and a goal, not a crown. A day will come when all will turn out, a day in the future, and that's what dreaming is all about.
I think it's great. I think it's really good. I don't think it's embarrassing at all.
I think it is, because it's just, now my poems are a lot better. Just take my word for it.
I'd be proud to have written that.
The message was good, at least.
When we talk about things like this reminds me what a couple of weeks ago you stumbled upon.
Oh my gosh.
A poem that I wrote in high school. That poem that you just read was like 10 times better.
No, yeah, so.
Like, look, you admit it.
No.
I was so proud of that. It was a book, published.
We were going through all these old documents,
works
and we found
from my high school, my senior year.
And you were like, the only reason that I would have gotten one of these is if I wrote something in it. And we were all like, oh, let's find it, let's go. And we're gonna read that, and I'm gonna make you read that. In
you struggled to even say, "Wow, good job." You struggled.
No, it was really funny, and I didn't know what it was about, because it was about golf.
Yeah.
Right.
Jack
and
Nicklaus.
I don't know golf.
Moving forward, in previous episodes, you have mentioned the Future Authors. What's it called?
Slideshow.
And it's a club.
Kind of.
Okay.
You don't really have to audition for it.
Can you explain what that is and who's involved?
Basically, what it is, I want to say December or November of my 6th grade year. So I was 11.
Oh, yeah.
I'm 12 now. So that's a big, long time ago, in ancient days, back in the good old days.
Yeah.
So I had created this slideshow. It was initially just for a few of my friends. Me, I don't want to name names, and a couple of friends in my homeroom, because we all 3 of us like to write. We just thought it'd be fun to get feedback, and I was like, why not make this something kind of cool and kind of big? So then I walked around the classroom, and I was like, hey, do you like to write? Well, then I have the thing for you. Like all those business do when they knock on the doors.
You are a salesperson at heart. So are most of the individuals aspiring writers, or just looking for a creative outlet?
Hard to tell, because a lot of them are really, really good, and they could be an author if they wanted to. But, I mean, this is just basically where you do something that you love, and you get feedback from it. And so that's how I got to see Kallen's, and she co-authored with one of her friends, Amna. So I got to see Kallen and Amna's journey through their editing, through their idea creating, through their writing process, through everything. And I got to read it and watch it happen, and that was one of the coolest things.
And so when you say journey, that was their process?
The process of them writing the book.
And they wrote a book. And what's the book called?
Ruby of Trouvaille.
Okay.
It is a very phenomenal book. We ordered it, and I read it in 30 minutes, because when you have a good book, you don't put it down, and that's what happened.
You decided, great guest opportunity.
Yes, I thought it was an amazing idea to have Kallen on the podcast, so let's talk to her.
Hello, Kallen.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good, Elle. How are you?
I'm good. So, for everyone that doesn't know, what is your book called and what is it about? Like the premise, no spoilers.
This is Ruby of Trouvaille, and it's about this girl named Ruby who is 15 years old, and she loves to write, but one day she takes her writing too far and ends up in another place.
That sounds really fun. So you co-authored with Amna Omar. So what is it like to co-author with someone?
It can sometimes be difficult because you're trying to get the idea to the other person, but they don't understand what's in your mind. But it was really fun to have someone to work on it with, so that we could create this story together, and she's a really good friend of mine, so we had a lot of fun with it.
The Future Authors slideshow is just a slideshow that we had created that was basically, we just link our stories and we give feedback to each other. So I got to see your process because of that slideshow. What was your process like from the idea to the publishing?
It was a while. We started out just talking during recess, me and Amna, and she was talking about how she's always wanted to write a book, but she's never had any ideas. So then I was just like, why don't we just do this? And so we came up with the idea, and from like January, around the beginning of January to April is how long it took us to write the book and do editing. And then we went to the book patch, we went to the website, and I basically put in all the information, and they printed it, and I published it to their online bookstore.
That's amazing. So what was the hardest or most difficult part of your process?
I think the most difficult was the editing, because I had a lot of different people who I wanted to edit, and I wanted to make sure everyone got a chance, but some people just wouldn't have time for it, so it would take a while. And it took a lot of patience as well for me and Amna. And yeah.
So who were your editors?
My editors were my sister, my dad, my mom. I put it on the Future Author slideshow, as you saw. And I believe that is it. And me and Amna, of course, edited it ourselves.
What was the most rewarding part of your process?
I think it was probably the day when the books arrived after waiting for such a long time, and I got to see them with the spine and everything. In that same exact day, I was able to get them to Amna as well, even though we weren't going to school or anything like that, and we were able to sign all the copies that we wanted to, and it was really just a nice day. It was all done.
As an author, I like to at least try to write every day. So what other stories are you writing, and do you have a co-author with any of them?
So I haven't really thought of any projects right now. I'm kind of taking a little writing vacation, but I definitely want to get back on it. There is some stories, though. I have a bunch of stories that I would get in the middle of writing them, and then I would just stop writing them because I wouldn't believe in myself enough to continue. So a lot of those I put on the Future Author slideshow. We have Mr. Prince of Emerald Bridges, Social School, this one about, I forgot what I titled it. I think it was like Allergies, My Life with Allergies or something like that. About this girl who had allergies, and all sorts of other ones. And I'm hoping that I will continue one of them so that I can get that printed as well.
What was the point where you stopped believing in yourself to continue to write?
So I would start with these books and I would write a lot, and then I would think, maybe this is too dramatic, my grammar's not good enough, this isn't dramatic enough, there's not enough detail, and a bunch of things like that, and that would be when I would stop.
How much dramatic effects and all that jazz do you include into a story?
So I try to have not too much because sometimes I go a little overboard because for me when I'm writing I love to add the drama, but then when I read it again it's like, this is way too cheesy. Um and so I like to have it where there's enough to kind of like in Ruby of Trouvaille, for an example, there's not too much drama. There's a lot of like cliffhangers and things like that, but like when you look at Ruby and Jack, I didn't add too much into that, but I did add a little bit of that. Um, yeah. So me and Amna kind of added more to it and kind of just in between, not trying to make the entire story about Ruby and Jack.
What is your writer's style? Is it different when you work with another person? Is it the same? How does that work?
I think that when I work with another person, it's all about like having patience with one another and really being kind and speaking up when there's something that you may want to change, and always thinking about the other person and trying not to boss the other one around. I think me and Amna, we worked really good with Ruby of Trouvaille because we were just such good friends and we would have that patience. And then we ended up creating this book that I really love. When I write by myself, I don't really have that person tell me when I'm going too overboard with the drama and things like that. But when I'm writing with another person, it's easier to do things like that. And also when I just need a break from writing, the other person's like, okay, I'll take over. But when I'm with myself, that book just kind of sits there and it doesn't get any attention.
So do you like writing with another person better, or do you like writing by yourself?
I think I'm kind of in between because I like having complete control over the book, but I also like to have that partner who goes through the entire journey with me so that I don't feel alone.
Would you like to publish again?
I would definitely love to publish again. I would like to have a future career as an author, or maybe even just writing in general because I love to write anything, poems, songs. I love to write. So yes.
So how did you learn how to publish, and how did you then know?
So this a website called the Book Patch. It will publish pretty much anything, and it will print things. It'll let you kind of create this on your own without having to worry about tons of judgment. I do want to see if one day I can get Ruby of Trouvaille to an actual publisher to publish so that it can show up in stores like that. But for now, I just have it with the Book Patch, and you can order it from there.
How do you order?
So there's a certain link. You would type like thebookpatch.com and then / and then a certain number. I don't know the link. I used to have it memorized, but I don't have it memorized now, just because it's been a while. But you would go to that link, and then the book would just show up. Hopefully, sometimes it doesn't show up. It'll just show up in the search section of their bookstore, and you'll have to search it up yourself. But it would show up there, and then you could press the order button, and you would make an account to the Book Patch, and they would deliver it to your house.
We will link it in the description, so people can go buy that. So, who are some of your favorite authors and or books?
That is a tricky one. I think I love all types of books. I used to be more of a realistic fiction person, but as I grow to love fantasy even more, I start to just love all types of books. I'm not the biggest fan of nonfiction, like those nonfiction books that'll talk about a subject. I like biographies, but sometimes nonfiction is just not what I enjoy because I like to get into a story. But some of my favorite authors are C.S. Lewis, who wrote The Chronicles of Narnia. Those are really good books. I like J.K. Rowling, of course, Harry Potter. Right now, those are the top two that come to mind just because Harry Potter and The Chronicles of Narnia are really great books. My family loves them. I love them.
So do you have a bond with your family over books, since you all like the same thing?
Yes. My family, they kind of try to encourage reading a lot. Like every summer, they would make up these summer challenges. We haven't done it for this summer yet, but definitely should. Where we would read a lot to get these rewards. So they definitely encourage reading. And they encourage Chronicles of Narnia and Harry Potter. They want us to read Narnia before we read Harry Potter. After you finish those series, you get to talk about it with them and kind of really bond over it. And it's really amazing to be here with my family talking about those, watching the movies, and pointing out certain parts, reading them together. So it's a strong bond that we all have.
For me, I would like to publish a book by the time I'm 16. So how much editing did you have to do in order to get your book published?
A lot. It was really it was just a lot. It was very tedious getting it all in, but it was definitely worth it because we wanted to point out every mistake so that the grammar could be correct, the lines would make sense to people, and we just wanted to make it the best version it could possibly be.
Oh yeah, do you want to read some of your story?
Yes, just let me get it real quick. Do you have any certain parts you'd like me to read?
Whatever you're most comfortable with.
I'm going to be reading chapter 1 of Ruby of Trouvaille. There's other parts of the book that I would love to read, but I'm worried they would spoil the book. So I'm just going to read chapter 1 because it's a great way to start the story and introduce it to other people.
All right, go ahead.
Couldn't stop. It's like the words kept coming and coming. They didn't stop. My hand started shaking with excitement as I saw myself filling up paper after paper after paper after. Chapter 1. Seeing things. I don't have much to say. It just happened. I just passed out on the carpet next to the desk. There was nothing much to it. Then I lay there on my bed with nothing to say. So I said nothing. Until it happened. An ugly giant was in my room. In my face. On top of my bed. Yes, I screamed. And yes, it was a top of my lungs kind of scream. And this time it was my family in my face. I pointed to it, but nobody seemed to be the tiniest bit of concerned. Ruby, you're insane. And should we take her to the doctor? And even, Ruby, stop playing games with us. You're 15, were the things I heard from my family. Oh, come on, tell me you truly don't see the slimy giant thing over there, I said, trying not to sound nervous. We don't, Ruby. I think you need some sleep, my mother sighed as she put her hand on my head. That's when the fairies circled around my room. Fairies! Look at them! I exclaimed right when the slimy creature thing started chasing the fairies while the entire house shook. Apparently nobody else noticed. Shh, my mom whispered as she tugged me in tight enough so I could barely move and left. Then I tried not to scream as goblins came and yelled, "What you looking at, punk?" I couldn't go to sleep for a while after all that happened. Once my mom could tell I wasn't going to sleep anytime soon, she let Jack come in to visit me. He came in with a piece of fruit in a bowl. I looked at him weirdly until he explained to me that it was the only thing he could sneak out of the house because his dad would never let him buy the entire fruit basket. So I said thank you, and he immediately started talking. Jack and I are the type of people that will talk for ages about random things, and once we run out of things to talk about, we talk about more things to talk about. That's just what we are. We're friends. So Jack had a right to immediately start talking. We had to catch up. So your mom says that you're seeing things or having hallucinations. What's that about? He asked. I immediately replied, nobody can see what I'm seeing right now, but I know it's there. Nobody believes me. I think I'm seeing what I wrote about. The blue grass, the green skies, the giants, and the fairies. I sighed. I know. I'm crazy. Jack smiled at me. I believe you, Rubina. I really do. He said as he picked up one of my books. What are you doing? I asked. You're getting sleepy and I want to let you rest, but I can't go back to my house. I don't want to go through the pain of my house. I understand, I said, but I don't remember much after that. I guess I fell asleep. But it's okay. That's not important. It's the next part that you'll want to hear about. And that is the first chapter.
That is amazing.
Thank you, Elle.
So how much of the first chapter did you write and how much did Amna write?
So, the first chapter, I wrote entirely by myself. Then, Amna started at the second chapter, but she helped me with editing it, and, she really gave me feedback on the first chapter.
Did you base the friendship of Ruby and Jack off of anybody in your life?
Not necessarily. Ruby and Jack are kind of like a different type of friendship than I have in my life, but I think Ruby with some of the other characters are more like in my life, like Ruby with Ezra and all the other characters, Elderly Sam, Cameron, Jane. There's a lot of different characters that I would base off of my life.
Nice job, Kallen.
Thank you for inviting me.
So make sure to check out the link in the description to buy Ruby of Trouvaille.
Wow, Elle. Great guess. I think
she's amazing.
She really was insightful and good questions. Good job.
Thank you.
Have you heard from her?
I did. So right after, she texted me some amazing things. She first off said, all right, I listened to both. I'm saving both of them to listen on my car ride to her vacation. Mm-hmm. So she must have had a 12-hour vacation ride. So she listened to both of them on repeat the entire time. And first off, I just want to thank her for that. That is truly, it's good to know that I have friends who will listen and just listen to me ramble pretty much for 20 minutes, as if I don't do that already. But so it's just, I want to thank her for that. But then I was talking to her and she was like, when's the next episode coming out? I need to know. So I'm sorry, Kallen, it came out a little late.
Yeah, we're delayed.
Delayed.
We've been on holiday.
Yes. As a writing vacation, as she called.
Oh, didn't she say that she was inspired to write again?
Oh, yeah. So then what happened, and she said, you inspired me to write again. You got me excited about writing. And I said, so you're flying home from your writing vacation? And she said, yes, I am. She said, I'm at the airport right now. So while I do love writing, and while I like the idea of putting something that's in your head out into the world, it just, being an inspiration seems better than that.
That's your number one goal.
My number one goal.
So you mentioned a quote at the beginning of the show. Can you read it again and tell me what it's about?
I can read it again. And the quote is, good fiction's job is to comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. David Foster Wallace.
David Foster Wallace. Yeah, after last episode, I kind of recommended it. If you're going to do a quote, you got to give me a little background about it.
I did. I Googled him, and he had a very successful life. He was a professor. He was a published author. He was a very successful man, and his story ended in a very tragic way.
Yes, he suffered from depression.
He did.
What does that quote mean to you?
I honestly don't know. That's the thing. I don't know why I picked this quote. I don't know why it spoke to me in a way, because, I Google search it and then I scroll through images because that's my way to find quotes. But, this one stuck out to me, and I don't know why. It just did. Not that the background was any different. It made me feel all the feels. It made me realize what fiction really is. And I feel like it's just a way not only to occupy the reader, but to really make them feel better about their reality.
Or escape from it for a little while. That's what I always like to say. Well, good episode.
Yes, it was a very good episode.
Enjoy the rest of your vacation.
Enjoy the rest of your vacation, too.
Maybe record another one from up here before we head back.
Exactly. Tune in to next episode where I will be reading the book that I'm currently writing. So that'll be exciting.
Tracking down, hopefully, a new guest.
Hopefully, a new guest.
All right.
All right.
Good job.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Write That Down, the podcast of an aspiring author. Now, this is the part where I'm supposed to give a shameless plug of all my social media accounts, but my parents won't let me have any.
Write that down.
Thanks for listening. Happy writing.